I just spent several hours in a game that is still in its alpha stage. The game is called Ghosts of Tabor, and it will be available to the greater public in March of 2023. Ghosts of Tabor is a virtual reality game. It'll be available on PC VR as well as Oculus Quest or Meta platforms. And it is a survival shooter. It is session-based, so you go into a raid, you hunt for goods and weapons and equipment and ammunition, and you kill NPCs as well as other characters, and you collect that equipment and you try to escape with the bag. And that might sound like a familiar formula, but I'll tell you, doing it in virtual reality is something that I couldn't have possibly imagined with the level of immersion that you achieve. After getting my head wrapped around some of the controls, I jumped into some PvE runs, and I'll tell you, it felt like a freaking horror game. There's something about the nature of virtual reality and the environment in Ghosts of Tabor where you're creeping around in this sewage system and it's just pitch dark, but all you can hear is the footsteps of armed bad guys moving around all around you. You find yourself hunkering down in corners, slowly peeking down hallways, and then making a mad dash when you think you have the opportunity to move to secure some equipment and to ultimately reach the extraction point. And I ran several PvE rounds, and I finally had a tremendously successful one where I was able to first get my hands on a pistol and score a kill. That kill got me an M4 off of a NPC. I was able to kill several more, ended up walking out with 3 total rifles. One was an AK, 2 M4s, and I also had a Glock on my hip and a P38 looking thing in my bag. And the inventory system is actually pretty intuitive. Because you're virtual reality, you don't need to memorize all these crazy button maps to be able to rapidly loot without getting annihilated by an NPC or another player. Instead, you walk up to a crate, you open it by reaching out with your hand, gripping the lid of the crate and throwing it open, grab all the stuff that's inside that you want, and then your bag is actually located on your back. You pull that bag off, you put it in front of your face. You can pull the trigger while you're holding that bag and it'll make it go transparent. You put the items that you want to collect into the bag, and as long as it fits, it'll exfil with you. There's also other systems implemented. You have the ability to heal yourself through a medical system. I haven't experimented with that too much, and I don't know how far along it is in the stage of development, but it's clearly already present. You can find medical equipment laying around the map. You can also consume water and you can consume food, and so it's got these survival shooter mechanics that make it extremely compelling and allows for this persistent experience where you have to play tactically so you don't get annihilated, and there's an incentive not to lose, because if you lose, you don't exfil with all of the equipment that you collected during the match. The game will ultimately have a bunch of missions that you also have to complete that allow you to get better gear. And of course, once you extract, you go back to your safe house. There's a trader or a vendor available for you to sell stuff to. You can buy new weapons, you can build weapons, customize weapons. And something that I thought was extremely interesting was the way that they run their storage in their armory system. So after I left with all of this equipment from my successful raid, I returned back to my safe house. I grabbed the key card and I walked over and I put it into my armory. This unlocks the armory. I walk into the armory and there's an empty wall, and I've just arrived with all of this loot that I took off of my first major extraction. Walk up to the wall, I can take all of my weapons, I can put them anywhere I want on the wall, I can organize it and make it my very own. All the magazines that I extracted with and the ammunition in those magazines still present. I can hang it all up on the wall, get it nice and organized, put my pistols up on the wall, and then when I want to actually customize a gun, I can take that weapon and I can either kind of mess around with it in my hands, or I can turn around in my armory and I can go put it in a gun vise on a workbench, and I can actually go over there and I can put on grips and I can add optics and I can put risers and canted risers and all this sort of stuff on the weapon system to make it exactly how I want it. And you can add a laser, and in fact you actually start with a laser and a bag as kind of the 2 first items that you enter the game with. Other than that, you're going in with nothing, just hopes and prayers and a lot of fear. Definitely a lot of fear. I was really impressed with the weapon mechanics and the manual of arms. I haven't had a chance to dive deep on every weapon in the game so far, but I did handle the AK, the M4, the Glock, and that P38 equivalent. And the M4 felt really good. I was really impressed that it had a functioning safety selector where you can cycle from safe to semi to fully automatic. You can eject the magazine very naturally. It even had enough detail that there was last round hold open. So after you expend the final round in a magazine, the bolt will stay locked open. You can swap the mags and then send the bolt forward. The AK was, similarly authentic and realistic. Again, I'm not a big AK guy, but I do have some familiarization on the platform. On the AK, the charging handle is on the correct side of the receiver. You can either go underneath or over the top to rack it. It also has a functioning safety selector. What I did appreciate was on the AK, whenever the AK is in safe, you're unable to rack the bolt. Most games wouldn't even come close to approaching that level of details. I was super impressed that they caught that little detail, certainly an indication that the game is trending in a positive direction when it comes to firearms authenticity. On the Glock, similarly, you get last round hold open when that last round is expended, and the ability to reload it and all that sort of stuff feels very good. And I'm very excited to see where Ghosts of Tabor is going to go. I'm going to keep in touch with these developers. I've been talking to them quite a bit. I'm hoping for the opportunity to continue to support their game into the future, and I'm looking forward to the launch in March. I should mention that pre-orders are available right now. If you do want to go ahead and pull the trigger on this game, support the development of it, and get some extra goodies when the game finally does launch, you can do that. I'll drop a link down in the description below, give you more details on it. If you guys are interested in Ghosts of Tabor, let me know in the comments. What do you guys think this is going to do to the VR landscape? This is one of the first major kind of competitive shooters that I see really breaking the mold of what we've seen with games like Veil and Onward and Pavlov. And it's got that nice blend of tactical shooter mechanics, but the same rewarding gameplay as my friend Abu would call it, a game-ass game. You've got a reason to play it. You've got missions. You've got consequences for dying. You're collecting equipment. You've definitely got some end game goals to achieve. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'm Controlled Pairs. This has been a heads up preview of Ghosts of Tabor, and I'll see you guys in the next one.